Right, so I'll just run you through how I'm connecting all this stuff up with this fuel system. That is, with the factory hard lines, they use that sort of, that kind of clip on fitting that goes into the top up here, that goes into the hard line. So what we've done is use these adapters. So this is a hardline adapter, so that silver bit comes out. Can't really see it. There's a couple of like double rubber O-rings in there, and it squishes in against the little flange on there. You can't really see that one. I'll pull that one off and you'll be able to see it. And then this goes on, converts it to dash 6. So yep, all done. So we got dash 6 this end, factory style connector this end, and a Gates barricade fuel line. So this is a multi-fuel fuel line. It's pretty expensive, but it's still cheaper than doing it like a like Teflon PTFE lined 100 series stuff. This is 400 series hose ends, these ones. Yeah, just a bit more OEM. So this will still be good for E85 should we need it. Yeah, see, multi-fuel, biofuel compatible, so yeah, good for E85 if we need to. So just to show how that clip works, see there's this step lip here on the factory hardline. So most modern EFI fuel systems will use this clip kind of system. So the way this works is this little johnny goes back there, and then this one slots in from that side, squishes up on those rubber O-rings in there, and then tightens everything in because this is threaded. So it's slotted so you can fit it over. So yeah, pretty handy little gadget actually, to convert your factory fuel line to a dash 6 fitting. It got a bit of stuff done. I haven't really filmed much just because I'm in the zone with it all. It's got all the manifold and stuff back on. I'll just pull the power steering stuff out of the way because this is where the factory ECU mounts. This is the factory like ECU box, and I've managed to actually fit the Max inside it, which is pretty handy, and also the Max relay box. Usually there's all these sort of plugs in a little basket thing, and that thing there mounted in there, but this has all come up pretty tidy. A factory cover goes over that, so that's pretty sweet. Just had to pick up a few wires out of the original loom. It's actually just 2, I think. I don't know, find out. Ignition switch and starter signal. I think that's pretty much it that needs to be integrated. The good thing with this Max stuff is this whole loom is actually labeled. So every wire has on it what it does. So it makes making the loom super easy, I guess. Yet to be decided, I guess. This thing doesn't start, but yeah, got a good bunch of stuff done. Coils all in. It's a friggin' pain with that crossover tube at the back. Should probably just cut it off and weld those openings shut, but I haven't. Just got one more bolt at the back of the rocker cover to put on. Been doing a bit of the plumbing for the boost control solenoid, so I'm using like these stainless brake line fittings with like a dash 3 line. So I get all the stuff sorted by Phil at Key West out in Henderson. So I just get him to, I just work out what I need as far as bends and straights go. And I cut all the lines to length, and then sort of you have to index them because once they're crimped there's not sort of any twist in them. These aren't swivel end like an AN. So I need to index everything and then take them back to them and he'll crimp everything up. So I've made this little bracket here which will mount up the boost control solenoid. So that just mounts onto, I guess I better show you, otherwise it's kind of pointless talking about it. So that's just gonna sit on there, bolts into that hole down there, and the boost control solenoid mounts onto it like so. Got the boost control wiring there. So yeah, just been mucking around with that a little bit as well. Just need to get this thing mounted. I don't have any like M4 fasteners to fit through this hole into the bracket, so I need to get some of those sorted out. And then yeah, I can get all that sorted. I've got to put the wideband sensor in the downpipe. I've got to do a little bit more wiring here as well, just integrating stuff, and this wire actually goes all the way back to the fuel pump. That wire there is my like boost switch, so I'll just run that into a switch inside, and that'll trigger that. I've just dummied the Aero up just to give myself some motivation. Kind of hard to see, but yeah, it looks pretty good. Front height will probably come down a touch. That's around about cert height though, because this car is actually already certified for road use down there. But yeah, rear's within cert height, and it's pretty low back there. Obviously the wheels will not be pink. Probably run a 535 up front on a 9.5. I'm probably going to have to do the classic chop through here and clearance the side of the bumper, because the scrub radius on the wheels with the plus 25 lowers, everything kind of fouls here, which sucks. I'd really would like to keep it all looking pretty clean like that, but I just don't think it's going to have the clearance, and I want to have a relatively chubby tyre on the front, just to make it nicer to drive. And I've also got most of the original fuel pump cradle sorted out. I've just got to just cut this off. You can see this is actually the factory fuel pressure reg, which mounts in here, or did mount in here, and like, oh fuck it, what was it? Yeah, something like that anyway. Oh, actually might have been up in there like so. Anyway, there's the factory fuel pressure reg, and obviously we've got the Turbo Smart one in there. So apparently the trick is you just cut this off and pinch this shut. Some guys will JB weld it, and some will actually weld it, so I'm probably going to cut it off and actually just weld it shut, then put it back in. This is the factory cradle. It uses a siphon valve because it's a saddle style fuel tank underneath the rear seats. So the return usually goes into this fuel pressure reg, but we're running it to the siphon valve, and then it obviously creates a siphon to suck fuel in. The other tube from the siphon valve goes from the other side of the tank, goes into here, which is still in the tank obviously, and then the return will just come out here. So the fuel pump's all in there. I've just done this setup. I've just drilled a couple of holes and put a hose clamp through to hold it all in place. I think this should work. I'm not really 100% sure, but it'll be interesting to see how this handles with like some drifting, because apparently the Verossas and 110s in general are pretty synonymous for having pretty bad fuel surge issues. So this fuel pickup's actually 10 mil higher than standard as well, so that might make it even worse, but we'll give it a shot and see what we can come up with. Yeah, and hopefully all that works. So yeah, there's the new AEM 340 in there. So ethanol safe one. I've used barricade fuel line. It's not super pinched there. I think there's still plenty of like area inside there. I think it should be okay. So we're getting pretty close to getting this thing started up. I have done most of the wiring. I've still got some fan stuff to hook up, which I've terminated to a plug there. This is the feed for the fuel pump. Goes back, it's all part of the max ECU relay box. I've just sort of jammed a few things in here just to get this sort of going. Can sort of finalize everything once I've got the thing running. Just got back from Phil's at Key West. Just crimped up all of these lines, tried indexed. So this big one here is goes from my oil block, which I've drilled and tapped for a 1/8 MPT fitting. So that'll go onto the bottom of that, and then this runs up to a sensor. I've got a Bosch dual sensor, so it does temp and pressure together on the one sensor, and all the rest of these are for wastegate lines. I like to use these stainless fittings and stainless braid. These are crimped instead of making AN. It's a bit of a cheaper way of doing it, but it's a bit more of a process because you can, luckily with Phil, he gives me the fittings and the line. I cut it, index everything where it needs to go, so it gets where it needs to go, and then I take it back to him and he crimps it. So sometimes there can be a little bit of difference in where I've marked it or secured it, and the actual orientation of it. But generally it's not too far out that it's not really a problem. But yeah, just a foolproof way of doing wastegate lines, to be fair. These won't split or leak. These are brake lines, basically. So yeah, gonna get those back on. I need to get at least that fuel pressure sensor one on to get the car started, otherwise it's gonna spill oil everywhere. But yeah, that's the little sensor down there. It's all mounted up. All my wiring's all basically done. Sub harness is done. Got fuel pressure sensor there, ethanol content sensor down there as well. The fuel pressure reg. Yeah, everything's looking pretty good. Here's where I've mounted the Mac valve, so everything it's all nice and close. Also need to get this wideband in. So I just need to still got the original one plugged in there, but there's a space there next to it for this one. This is the Max ECU one. So good thing with these Max ECUs, they have a built-in wideband controller, which is really quite cool. So yeah, we'll get a few of these bits buttoned up, put some power through the thing, hopefully it doesn't fry anything, and we'll start configuring this ECU. Okay, I didn't film a bunch of stuff, to be honest. I've been spending quite a bit of time tracing little issues, and as you do, configuring the ECU. I had a problem. I wasn't getting any power to I thought I wasn't getting any power to the ECU, but it turned out, after tracing all the friggin' power wires, and because I've taken everything out of the original ECU box, Max ECU is down there, so I thought there was no power going from the fuse box, or going from the battery to the fuse box initially, and then fuse box into the ECU. It was all working, it was all powered. Turned out I needed to update the Windows system on the laptop and the software, the Max ECU software, and then it came up straight away, ECU Online. So I've gone through and configured a bunch of this stuff, fuel pump stuff, all the outputs. I've done some of the inputs, like the fuel pressure temp, oil temp and pressure sensors. So now I'd got to the point where I was sort of ready to try and crank the motor. Had all the starter stuff set up, So I'm not using the factory wiring for the starter circuit. I'm using the Max ECU box. It's got a starter relay circuit in it. So I'd taken some of the factory wiring, which I thought was right, and I know it's right, but I've labeled it on here, so it's just a spare 12 volt. That's a starter switch, which is supposed to be this blue one, and that's ignition. That's just key on, which is that one, and that's working. So that's powering everything up. That brownie wire, blacky brown wire, that runs through here and then turns everything on in the box, the fuse box. So that's great. So that works. But the key on to start the car is this one, and a key on and nothing happens. So I don't know if there's something, I'll need to ask maybe Brendan Dunker, he'll probably know. There might be something to do with the factory sort of CAN bus system, because I know the car runs off a pretty intense CAN bus system. So I don't know if that's the issue, but when you key on, nothing happens. So what I've done is I've just temporarily taken that spare 12 volt thing here and put a little push button here. So we've got crank, all the ignition and fuel tables are disconnected at the moment, so you can do that in the software. So I've got fuel, I've got definite fuel pressure because that was working before. I've got oil pressure building. Don't think I'm pissing any oil anywhere down there. Can't see anything yet. So I think I'm sort of set to reactivate the ignition and fuel maps or tables, and see if we can get this thing started.
The intro, but what are we doing, Reuben?
At the moment, I'm struggling with this fucking stupid breather hose, but we're at JT Performance today, getting the Ross tuned. This is my Verossa JZX110. I've had it for quite a while. I've had it for probably over a year, but haven't really had the time or anything to work on it. But over that time, I've done a bit of stuff to it, and we're here today to get it tuned, finally tuned.
What kind of numbers do you reckon?
I think it's going to be under 300 kilowatt at the wheels with this thing. It uses still the factory turbo manifold, which has been modified with a V-band to take this G30 660 turbo and the wastegate. So that stock manifold's like, it's relatively restrictive. It's got very small ports. The way it collects the exhaust gases isn't very efficient for high power. So it's going to be under 300 kilowatt, but it should be very punchy. It's a good size turbo. It'll be a fast street car for sure. And this is the sort of iteration number one. I've got plans to do other stuff with it over the next couple of years.
And any other spicy
So
Fruits?
it's got the R35 coil conversion kit. I've still got a bit of stuff to tidy up in here, but I did all the wiring loom. It's got a max ECU, which is down here. This will go back in the factory ECU box. Runs the max relay box as well, which it's really nice and plug and play setup. It makes things really easy to do this kind of stuff with a car like this without having to get really deep into wiring stuff. It's all stock engine, stock cams. It's got Expert 1170cc injectors. It's got a Phoenix cooling system, so their triple pass radiator, their 100mm intercooler, because 1Js run pretty hot. They have pretty high IATs. And that was an issue with my Mark II. The intercooler just wasn't very efficient, it's too thin, and the IATs were just getting absolutely stratospheric. So hopefully this keeps it pretty cool. Got oil cooler kit as well, just kind of custom, I guess. I did all the intercooler piping and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty neat little street car, I hope.
And those are the wheels are going to run on it, on the body kit?
Yep, yep. So it runs a Vertex body kit, just the sides and front. It's got in-style 50mm over fenders, just like fender flares. These are my Wedge Sport SA10Rs, which are like a 18 10.5 plus 12. So I've got full clearance up front with a 265/35, which is pretty sick. It runs a Serial 9 25mm LCA and a Kazama version 2 knuckle, which is all cast, so there's no welding in the knuckle, which is quite good. And obviously rack ends and tie rod ends to make it all work with the wider track. It's got BC coilovers in it at the moment, which I don't really like, but they'll do for now. It's like an 18 kg front and an 8 kg rear, so the rear is quite soft. It's got a bit of rake. I will track this car, so I want it to handle good. That's why it's not absolutely boned out. But we've still got some alignment stuff to do and just some general finishing touches. Paint some Aero, paint the fenders, give the thing a good tidy up because it's been sat around for like a year and a bit. Yeah, I had that, and then I got a new crimper. That's just like this. On the race one, it's on A1, GP4 out, GP out 4. Yeah. But oh no, they're on the same output. Between the two ECUs. Yeah.
What's the current issue?
So the VVTL solenoid is not triggering. And I wouldn't say I'm mucked up, but like it's got a bit of a change up between the engine loom and that is meant for the ECU and the ECU that's actually in there.
Yeah.
So where do we think it is? A1. Either A1 or E4. Can you see? There it is. So E4 on the other one.
Is there an E4 on
Yeah, it's an analog in though.
Yeah, sweet. Cool.
Sucks, so we're gonna have to swap it over. Right?
Yeah, have you got a declining tool for a Max?
No.
Nah, neither do I. Yeah, okay, that's cool. We can just be a little bit through.
We just chop it.
Just find. Should have it written on there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a Max. I have two Max ECUs. One's a race model, and one's a sport model. And originally, when I built this and did the loom, I used the loom from the race model one. But then I had a faulty race ECU, and then I put the sport model in.
Yeah.
But there's some pins coming out of the ECU that are different, that go to and do different things. There's just very few, but it's enough to make
a
yeah.
little issue. So what do we need?
We need the VVTI to work, so we're just swapping around a couple of pins because there's like slight variance between the race loom and the street loom. So we're just running it because I'd run that output to a DT plug, so we can just plug into that wire that needs to go into it. And it's going to go to the right place.
What's a DT plug?
Like a Deutsch connector.
Yeah.
One of these jobbies. So it's actually plugged in. The output that we need is actually in here, so we can just plug into that, and it'll go to the right spot. Hopefully. I'll be able to take them off to do track days and stuff, but it's just a bit of a fucking admin, eh? PSI. He's going to try and get a bit more. How many kilowatt? It was at 293. So we'll see what it does, but it should go maybe over 300 if we bump it up a little bit more. What I'll do is when I do it, get the old shirt on done here on the dyno at JT Performance. The car did way better than I was expecting. Here's some dyno sheets.
Try and make sense of those. I can put it up there if you want to.
No, that's all good. This is all good. I think we can make the most of that.
I can explain
So
the
boost.
too.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, actually, it's probably better that you do it.
Sweet. So we have got on this sheet here power engine RPM. Well, it's actually hub speed and then drops down to engine RPM down there. So it's leaving the dyno with 306.1 kilowatts at the wheels. I've got it on 20 pound of boost through the guts, and then just to maintain torque a little bit further out to red line, I'm sneaking it up to 22. Just helps hold torque to the red line, and then if torque's staying relatively flat and RPM's is increasing, your horsepower goes up. Honestly, it performed perfectly. Didn't have any problems at all. Just that one little bolt that came out.
One bolt.
That was it.
That was it.
And we were done too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's it.
easy.
So absolutely stoked with those numbers, man. Like I wasn't not expecting this thing to go like close to 300, like maybe 280, 290. But making over 300 is fucking awesome. So yeah, cheers, James. That's it.
20 pound at 3.6. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
that's wild. Okay, yeah.
On
That kind of sums it up.
Too.
This should be a pretty interesting car, like to like drive on club circuit after, having an SR with like no torque.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nothing into up top.
Yeah, nothing to up top, and then like the difference with the Mark II having, 100 kilowatts more effectively.
Yeah.
That thing just blew the tyres off no matter what.
Yeah.
But this, I think this is going to be a nice little setup.
When are we going to see it out?
Maybe Drift Force, next Drift Force, I think.
Yeah.
All I want to do is drive it now, eh?
Yeah.
Can't take it to Taupo because of fucking roll cage stuff, but
It's Taupo roll cage only now.
it is on the big track, yeah. Club circuits, the club circuit there you can drive without.
Yeah.
Which is weird considering you're doing fucking tip-ins at a brick wall,
Straight towards
heading
the
down
wall.
the corner.
Yeah, not just with a big grass run
Yeah.
off, but it would have been because that car flipped there.
Yeah, 100%, yeah, for sure. So, no, it should be interesting to see how it goes. It should be pretty decent.
Sweet.
Yeah, man. All right, let's pack her up. Roll out. Thank you, Pierce.
That's all right, mate. Thanks for lunch.
Thanks for lunch.